Another day in America means another mass shooting. And today it was at Florida State University, where many of my friends are only a few weeks away from graduating, but they weren't thinking about graduation today. They were thinking about making it through the next minute. As lives were lost to two shooters, several were injured, and an entire community has been left rocked because this just continues to happen, because our lawmakers refuse to do anything and our president doesn't care. And he made that incredibly clear today with the disgusting response he gave that is getting the rightful backlash that it deserves. Now, we are going to unfortunately have to hear from what Donald Trump said. But before we get into that, I want to hear a student who gave his eyewitness recount and said something that I think is incredibly important.
So I was in my economics of the Middle East class. We were giving our final presentations on a research paper we were doing. And so one of my classmates was presenting, and someone close to the window had said they saw people running past Bellamy, and someone got a text. And then we kind of all realized something was going on. So we got the desks and started piling them up against the door. We tried to get the bigger desk, the main desk, the presenter's podium against the door, but we tried to rip some wires out of the wall, so it was pretty hectic. But
did you ever hear the gunshots?
No, I did not, but I did hear ambulances, what I thought was ambulances initially. And I found that a little bit concerning because usually when they get close to campus, they, mute their alarms to, refrain from making, big disturbance. But I mean, prayers to, all my peers, the professors, the staff, the Taos community, really the country. I'm going to call on, Governor Ron DeSantis, the President Donald Trump for, this stuff keeps going on, right? But we're praying every day. Prayer is good. Spirituality is good, but, prayers don't do much, right? So, it's good for the soul, but is this still happening? I think it is. So, we need to make some gun reforms.
Prayers do not go far in a time like today. They don't mean much, especially when the people who are offering them up don't care to do any more than that. They don't care to comfort. They don't care to do the work. They don't care to listen. They don't care to change. They are set in their ways. They are dug in. Nothing could change their mind. The only thing that would is probably if this happened to their family. It is that dark that only something so awful could change their mind. There is no empathy at play here. They don't care about others. No. They just care about being bankrolled by the NRA and pretending it's about the Second Amendment. The same people who are letting Donald Trump crap on the Constitution are saying it's about the Second Amendment. Okay. It is sad. It is heartbreaking, and it is expected. A congressional Democrat was just talking about this 7 days ago. Listen to what they had to say.
Another longtime concern that I've had has to do with gun violence, school shootings, the absolute proliferation of weapons on our streets. And you testified earlier that gun violence is now the #1 killer of children under 19, both through suicide and through homicide. We've already seen this administration cut community violence prevention and gun safety grants to our cities and communities, which actually had seen a reduction in gun violence since a peak in 2021. Can you talk about what budget cuts would mean with respect to reducing gun violence and child mortality?
Yes, I would hope that we would all agree that we should do all we can to do prevention, and those grants are prevention grants. They're not gun control grants. They're grants to try to reduce, to improve prevention services. And so that's something that hopefully there's a very bipartisan thing.
Not only does Donald Trump not care, but his Republican budget is defunding programs, and not to take people's guns away, but to prevent gun violence, to just keep people safe. And it can't even go that far. They can't even do that as students lose their lives. Worst of all is what he had to say, though. Take a listen.
We're learning that there are now 2 deceased following that shooting at Florida State University. Following and amid that, is there any changes that you want to see to gun legislation? Anything you see broken with gun laws in our country?
I'm going to have to look. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment. I have been from the beginning. I protected it, and these things are terrible. But the gun doesn't do the shooting. The people do. It's a phrase that's used probably too often. I will tell you that it's a shame. I'm just hearing about it now. I just hear about it. I know the area very well. I know the school very well. I know everything about it. It's Florida. And we'll have more to say about it later.
What do you mean when you say there will be more to say about it?
Only in terms of what happened. As far as legislation is concerned, this has been going on for a long time. I have an obligation to protect the Second Amendment. I ran on the Second Amendment, among many other things, and I will always protect the Second Amendment.
He clearly doesn't care. He doesn't care. He immediately snaps to loving the Second Amendment, and I've been so good on that. The NRA loves me, gun owners love me, everybody loves me. Doesn't say a word about the people who lost their lives today. About the parents who won't see their child walk across the graduation stage. Don't care. He doesn't care. And it is days like today when we're really reminded of the choice we had not too long ago in November. Because what did Kamala Harris, the vice president who opened the Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, which Donald Trump quickly shut down, what did she have to say?
This is just a senseless tragedy on top of so many senseless tragedies. And it's just outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. It's senseless. It is. We've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way.
That is the choice that we had. Someone who actually cared. Someone who did the work. You messed up, America. And I think every day we realize more and more. And, there's a lot that I could say right now. I have a lot of feelings, as you might expect. But I'm going to let my own congressman, Maxwell Frost, do the talking for me.
To lose a child to gun violence, to see the photos of your child sitting in a pool of blood, I can't imagine that. Today, Republicans on this committee chose to sit in front of those parents and the survivors and organizers and advocates that are in the audience right now, people who are reliving their trauma, listening through this, people impacted by gun violence across the nation, and show that their priority is gun lobby money, manufacturers who profit off death, and creating fake narratives for political gain. I am furious, angry that 3 kids died today in Nashville, Tennessee, angry that hundreds of parents had to cry their eyes out today, not knowing if their child would come home from school, and angry that we have to live day after day when we turn on the news to see rampant gun violence claiming life after life. It is likely that at this moment, the next mass shooter is planning their shooting. What will this chamber do about it? Students are begging for Congress to have the courage to act on gun violence. If you care about students, if you care about schools, fight for a world where students are not dying in a pool of their own blood in the classrooms that they're supposed to be learning in. If Republicans gave a damn about America's children, they would pass legislation to end gun violence, to keep students safe, to keep teachers safe, to keep administrators safe, and the staff at the schools. If Republicans gave a damn about the next generation, they wouldn't be actively trying to cut funding for your kid's school and turning a blind eye to the gun violence that's killing children every single day in this country. If they gave a damn about gun violence, they wouldn't be going after teachers over some emails about school safety from 2 years ago. Again, the leading cause of death for kids in America is guns. And today's hearing is about distracting the people from the truth. They want you to believe that the greater threat is the ATF and not the facts that are in front of us. We heard one of my colleagues bring up facts. Let's look at the facts, and I just said them. 100 people a day. And I know it's easy to say a number and forget that behind every number, there's a human. I filed my last bill last week to simply create a federal office of gun violence prevention. 3 kids are dead today, and every day that we wait, 100 more people die. I pray to God that there are some Republicans in this chamber that can help support my legislation to save lives. Let me tell you what people are actually going through. My friend Manuel Oliver lost his son Joaquin in the Parkland shooting. Joaquin Oliver in Parkland, Florida. And when I think about what our children are going through and the real threat to them, I think about the autopsy of Joaquin Oliver. I quote, "a significant amount of bleeding. The bleeding went into his right chest cavity and started compressing his lungs. By basically drowning, he died in a pool of his own blood." That is what happened to Joaquin Oliver. That is the threat that our students are going through. 549 children and teens have already been lost to gun violence this year alone. And yet here we are, burying our heads in the sand, ignoring the problem, and refusing to put legislation on the floor. You know, Manny and Patricia have dedicated their lives to fighting for a world where true justice can be achieved, because unfortunately, there is no justice for the dead. And true justice is ensuring that this never happens again. I fight alongside Manny and Patricia Oliver. I believe that they are American heroes. And what they always say is they don't want their son Joaquin to be remembered as a victim. They want him to be remembered as an activist. And to all the organizers, advocates, survivors, and families here today, I'm so sorry that you've had to sit through this hearing. I'm so sorry that you had to see what happened outside to Manny and Patricia, who are just fighting for a world where no other parents have to go through what they went through. And I, for one, believe this has nothing to do with policy and everything to do with politics. And I won't be listening to another second of it, and I wouldn't blame you all if you made the same decision. I yield back.
It's just, it's difficult on a day like today. It's just, and I saw a couple people reach out because they might know that I'm from Florida, that I have friends there. I really appreciate that. It means a lot for those of you who did. My friends who were at FSU, some of them were close to what happened today. None of them were hurt. Thankfully, I got to talk to them as soon as I saw what happened. It's just devastating that we have to continue to allow this to happen and nothing comes about, which just makes it all the more important that we keep calling these people out. We're certainly going to do so on this show every single day. And if you want to support this work, as always, hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. I know it was not the most fun watch. It is just so painful. And if you stuck around to the end, I could really use one. You drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.